want to talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about. And it happened right now. It happened a few minutes ago. Rookie investor asking me, I want to buy properties, but I only want to buy distressed properties with conventional lending. I'm going to tell you why that's a bad strategy to begin with. And I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to make it very easy for you guys why this is a failed strategy to begin with. The main reason, when you think about buying distressed properties, buying off-market properties, when we say off-market properties, we mean properties that are not in the MLS. The wholesalers that are providing those properties to you, the only way that they're getting these properties cheaper, the only way that Graystone and wholesalers like ourselves are getting the properties cheaper is because we're promising speed, okay? That's really the only leverage, or at least the main leverage that us as wholesalers have with distressed buyer. Is like, Mr. Klein, we will be able to close on your property in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Therefore, that's the reason why we're getting the discounts that we're getting on the properties, because of the speed that we're promising these sellers that they will obtain their money, okay? Most of the time, when somebody is selling at a distressed sale, at a discount price, is because they have an emergency. That's the reason why we're able to find cheap properties for you and therefore resell those cheap properties to you, the end investor. And now you see why conventional lending doesn't fit within that strategy. Why? Because the minute you go conventionally, guys, you're gonna need 30 days, 45 days to close. So from the beginning, those investors that are coming to me and saying, I want to buy investment properties, but I want to have a conventional rate. That's not gonna work, because in this business, in order for you, it's a give and take situation, okay? You either or buy a property in the MLS and finance it conventionally, no problem, but you're gonna pay top dollars for it because somebody else put the time, put the effort to fix the property, to then pull the equity. It's only fair, right? So the only two options you have, you buy off market, you get a good deal, you get a discount on the property, but you must close quick, or you get conventional lending, you get a property from the MLS, you take your time closing, but you get a better rate. I'm gonna compare apples to apples, apples to apples, guys, and I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna compare both of them, both strategies, okay? One of the reasons why this investor said to me, well, I don't want to use your short-term lending is because it's going to cost me 10%. And I want to get a 5% long-term. But when I explain to this person in detail, okay, let me see if I'm understanding correctly. You want to get a 4% or 5% from now from today for 30 years. So you want to have conventional lending for 30 years because this is a property that you're going to cash flow. Okay? I totally understand that, because long term you pay very little interest, so therefore you're going to have more cash flow. Okay? But when you think about a bridge note, think about getting private lending in a very short temporary basis, let's say 6 months, a year. So that way you could get the property cheaper. You could get the property $20,000, $30,000 cheaper, because you're the one building the equity on it. It's not somebody that already built the equity on the property. It's something that you're building. You want to buy it fast, okay? And when you go with private financing, let's say you're going to get a 10% interest rate. But guys, it's going to be very short. The 10% interest rate is going to be for 6 months to a year. So when you compare apples to apples, right? Now you say private lending, 12 months, 6 months, 12 months. That's 1 year out of your 30-year strategy, right? Because you want to own this property for a long time, okay? And then you take the private lending on year 2. I'm sorry, you take the conventional lending in year 2 at that 5%, and you compare 1 year at 10% plus 29 years at 4 or 5% versus 30 years at 4 or 5%, then you know that the difference when you do an average is peanuts. So you're talking about, you do the math, 1 year, 10% plus 29 years, 4% equals to 4.5. Then you do the same math here, you're gonna get 4% because that's what you're getting for the 30 years. But you also have to take in consideration that the MLS deal, somebody fixed it, right? Because when people think about, let me go conventionally, they don't think about all the other extra fees they're gonna have to pay. The property has to be 100%, first of all. So that means even if you have a roof that still has a few years left of life, you cannot use it. You gotta put a new roof. That means if you could get, on the private lending side, minimum insurance, just for catastrophic situations, you have a big deductible, who cares? If it was up to you, you do self-insurance, but you cannot do that because you don't have enough properties to do that. But you keep your insurance to a minimum. Versus on the conventional side, you're gonna have to have insurance up the butt. I mean, you're gonna have to have insurance for what the property's worth. So now you're tripling the amount of insurance that you're gonna be paying in year 1. And then people say, well, Jorge, at least on this deal, I'm paying on the conventional deal. If I go conventionally from day 1, I'm not paying. Some money's going towards principal. But the reality of it, and we all know this, is on the first few years, because the amortization table, you're not paying any principal really. Let's say you pay what, $20 a year of interest. So I want to compare apples to apples. So you have a deal here, conventionally, that somehow you managed to close within 30 days, 45 days, and you were able to find a good deal. And this deal has a little bit of equity, whatever the case may be. But it's not going to have a lot compared to an off-market deal, something that distressed, something that you have to put the equity into it by rehabbing it, okay? When you think about the conventional deal, all the things you need to do, you need to pay for an inspection, you need to pay for a full appraisal, you need to make sure you do a 4-point inspection, you got to make sure everything is 100%, all of this thing. And by the way, you have to do that very quick. You have to finish all of that quick. When you think about all of that versus just going privately, taking your time, let me see the property, buying it, let me fix it little by little, let me build the equity into it. I'm getting the property. If this property was in the MLS, it would have been $20,000 more, $30,000 more. Of course it will be more. Because if the person that's selling it to you is selling it to you cheaper because they have a need, they need the money today. If they don't have the money or the need today, they will put the money and fix it themselves and then put it in the MLS. They don't want to pay real estate commission. They just want to get it out as fast as possible. It's all about the speed, where they're asking you, can you please buy this, Mr. Buyer, as quick as possible? So when you compare apples to apples, when you take 10% for a year, time plus 29 years of 4 versus 4% for the whole 30 years in a long-term strategy, long-term rental, you're going to see that the difference of the interest rate is not going to be much, but the difference on the acquisition price is gonna be huge. So you're gonna enter into this distressed property for $30,000-$40,000 cheaper than a property that's already kind of turnkey that you need for conventional lending. And let me put it to you guys in perspective, and this is what I tell one of my clients. If your strategy is that I'm not gonna buy a property unless the property qualifies from conventional lending from the beginning, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna fail, because you're not gonna find those type of properties. It's gonna be very hard to find those type of properties. Most of my clients that tell me this strategy, I wanna wait on the acquisition side. I'm gonna wait before I have conventional lending to do lending. You'll never buy. Now, what I'm saying, guys, is you buy the property, now you got it, you were able to find a quick solution to that seller, therefore you get a really good deal because you move fast, okay? When you buy privately, you don't need an appraisal, you save $400-500. You don't need a 4-point inspection, you save $200. You don't need to do anything else. You don't even need the full-blown insurance, so you're saving escrow insurance, escrow taxes, all of these things. When you do the math, you're paying the 10% on the first year regardless. But let's say we're all of that, we're convinced, okay, we're gonna go the private route, the wholesaling route. We're gonna get a private lender to do it for us. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be able to get a better deal with more equity. You're gonna be able to take your time fixing the property, therefore making sure that you don't have any issues later, because you're gonna know the property intimately. You're fixing it from day one, right? So in theory, when you buy a property that's quote unquote rent ready, or that somebody put in the MLS and they're telling you is in good conditions, you got to take their word for it. You don't know, because you didn't work on the property intimately the same way you did on this off-market property that you touched from the beginning. So that's what I'm saying. The strategy of buying off-market properties with private lending makes sense, because you could get into the property, get all the equity that you need, get a lender to lend you the money in the meantime, and then you can go conventionally. 6 months from now, you can take your time, you have choices, but please do not make this strategy of buying investment properties with conventional lending as your default strategy, because you're gonna fail. You're not gonna gain any speed. You're gonna miss a deal after a deal after a deal, and eventually, when you realize it's not the way to go, the same property is gonna be worth $10,000 more. So take my advice. Go with what's the fastest way when you're doing off-market properties. Deal with the lending later and make a move. You can do it, buy quick. You can do it, build your portfolio. Remember, this is Jorge at Graystone Investment Group, where you invest and we do the rest. Thank you.